Imagine standing on a ridgeline, surrounded by the thick, humid mist of the Southeast Asian jungle. To your left is the ancient kingdom of Thailand, a land of golden temples and rice paddies. To your right, the rugged, mountainous terrain of Laos. It is 1965. Officially, there is no war here. If you look at the newspapers in Washington or the official statements in Bangkok, these borders are peaceful. But then you hear it, a low hum vibrating through the soles of your boots. It grows louder, a mechanical roar that shatters the tranquility of the canopy. An unmarked T-28 Trojan dives out of the clouds, banking hard over a valley that, according to the map, doesn't hold any strategic value. But the map is wrong. The bombs fall, and for a moment, the jungle burns. This was the reality of the secret war. A conflict so covert that the pilots flying the planes carried no identification, and the soldiers fighting on the ground had officially ceased to exist. While the world's eyes were fixed on the burning jungles of Vietnam, a massive shadow war was being waged next door in Laos, and the launching pad for this invisible crusade was Thailand. Hello, and welcome to Siam and Stripes. I am your host, your guide through the complex tapestry of history and culture that binds and sometimes separates Thailand and the United States. Today, we are stepping out of the sunlight and into the shadows. We are exploring a chapter of history that was classified for decades, a story of CIA operatives, Thai mercenaries, and a geopolitics game played with human lives. This is not just a story about bombs and bullets. It is a story about how two nations, separated by an ocean and a massive cultural divide, found themselves locked in a secret embrace, united by a common fear of communism and a desperate need for security. Today's topic is the CIA's secret war in Laos and Thailand's covert role. To understand why Thailand, a nation deeply rooted in Buddhist compassion and seemingly insulated by its own traditions, would willingly become the unsinkable aircraft carrier for the United States, we must look backward. We must look at the deep-seated anxieties that plagued the Thai leadership in the mid-20th century. For centuries, Siam had been the master of survival. They were the bamboo bending with the wind, the only Southeast Asian nation to escape colonial rule by playing the European powers against one another. But in the 1950s and 60s, the wind was blowing from a different direction, and it carried the scent of something the Thai elite feared more than colonization. It carried the scent of red revolution. You see, the Thai worldview is anchored in three pillars: Chat, Satsana, and Pramakasat, nation, religion, and king. This acts as the spiritual and social glue of the country. Communism, specifically the brand radiating from Mao's China and Ho Chi Minh's Vietnam, was viewed not just as a political threat, but as an existential one. It was atheistic, it was anti-monarchist, and it sought to dismantle the very hierarchies that held Thai society together. The Thai military government at the time, led by staunch anti-communists like Field Marshal Sarit Thanarat, looked at the map and saw the Domino Theory not as an abstract academic concept, but as a terrifying forecast. If Vietnam fell, Laos would be next, And if Laos fell, the red tide would crash right against the banks of the Mekong River, threatening the vulnerable Isan region of northeast Thailand. There is a concept in Thai culture known as Pu Yai and Pu Noi, the big person and the little person. It dictates social hierarchy and patronage. In the geopolitical theater of the Cold War, Thailand recognized that to survive the coming storm, it needed a powerful patron. It needed a Pu Yai with deep pockets and big guns. And so, despite a history of careful neutrality, Thailand made a calculated decision to align itself fully with the American eagle. It was a survival strategy, rooted in the fear that the ancient identity of Siam was on the brink of being erased. So, how did this historical anxiety manifest in the 1960s and 70s? It created a fascinating and somewhat terrifying duality within Thai society. On the surface, in the bustling streets of Bangkok, life appeared normal. Tourists visited the Grand Palace, monks collected alms in the morning mist, and the markets thrived. But peel back the layer of normalcy, specifically in the northeast provinces like Udon Thani and Nakhon Phanom, and you found a country mobilized for a war it refused to acknowledge. This was the era of the black airbases. Enormous concrete runways were carved out of the rice fields, funded entirely by the United States. From these bases, American jets launched relentless bombing raids over Laos and Vietnam. But for the local Thais, this influx of American power brought a complicated mix of danger and prosperity. The concept of Kreng Jai, that uniquely Thai reluctance to impose or cause trouble, was tested to its limits. The Thai government had to navigate a delicate path. They had to allow the Americans to operate freely, violating Thai sovereignty in practice while maintaining the face of an independent nation. This led to a surreal environment. Thousands of Thai men, often from the elite police units or the military, were quietly approached by their superiors. They were asked to resign from their official positions. They were handed plain clothes, stripped of their rank, and hired by mysterious private companies funded by the CIA. They were no longer Thai soldiers, they were employees. In the contemporary context of that era, secrecy became a currency. Everyone knew, yet no one spoke. The suppression of information was absolute. A Thai mother in Bangkok might believe her son was on a training exercise in the north, when in reality, he was commanding a unit of Hmong guerrillas in the mountains of Laos, directing airstrikes on the Ho Chi Minh Trail. The societal pressure was immense, a collective holding of breath, waiting to see if the firewall of Laos would hold or if the war would spill across the river and consume them all. Let's zoom in and look at this through the eyes of the men who lived it. Picture a young man named Somchai. He is a pilot, one of the best in the Royal Thai Air Force. He has the swagger of a fighter ace, but he also carries the deep respect for authority ingrained in him since birth. One afternoon, he is called into a smoky office in Udon. An American man in a linen suit, sweating in the heat, slides a piece of paper across the desk. It's a resignation letter. If Somchai signs it, his military career is over. But he will immediately be hired by a company called Air America. His salary will triple, and he will fly the T-28 Trojan, a heavy piston-engine beast, into the most dangerous airspace on Earth. Somchai signs. Weeks later, he is flying low over the plain of Jars in Laos. He looks down and sees the craters like moonscapes carved into the green earth. He isn't fighting for a flag anymore, not officially. He is fighting for the Police Aerial Reinforcement Unit, or PARU. He speaks into his radio, not in standard military code, but in a mix of Thai and Lao, coordinating with a Hmong warlord on the ground. When he lands back at the secret base simply known as Long Tieng, a city that doesn't appear on any map, he drinks beer with American CIA case officers and Hmong fighters. He is a ghost in a machine built by foreigners, fighting a war to keep his own home safe. Or consider the story of Lek, a Thai police commando. He is deployed deep into the Laotian jungle to train the Hmong tribesmen. He lives in a bamboo hut, eating sticky rice and spicy dip, miles away from the comfort of his family. He bonds with the Hmong, realizing that their struggle is his struggle. He watches them fight with ancient flintlock rifles alongside modern M16s. One night, the enemy attacks. Tracers light up the jungle. Lek fights not for democracy or capitalism, but for the brothers next to him. And if he dies, there will be no official funeral, no flag-draped coffin. Just a quiet notification to his family that he died in a training accident. This was the burden of the Thai secret soldier, a sacrifice made in total silence. Now, let us leave the humid, secretive jungles of the Mekong and travel thousands of miles across the Pacific Ocean. We are heading to the sterile, air-conditioned corridors of Washington, D.C. and Langley, Virginia. While some Chai and Lek were fighting in the mud, the architects of this war were sitting in leather chairs, looking at large maps pinned to the wall. To understand the American side of this secret war, we have to shift our mindset entirely. We have to leave behind the Thai focus on survival and hierarchy and enter the American world of ideology and strategy. In the 1960s, America was riding the high of the post-World War II boom, but it was also gripped by a cold paranoia. The Red Scare was real. The belief was that communism was a monolith, a cancer that would spread relentlessly if not surgically removed or contained. This was the era of the best and brightest, the highly educated technocrats in the Kennedy and Johnson administrations, who believed that every problem, no matter how complex or cultural, could be solved with the right amount of money, firepower, and covert action. The United States faced a dilemma. The 1962 Geneva Accords had declared Laos a neutral country. Foreign troops were forbidden. But the North Vietnamese were already there, using the Ho Chi Minh Trail to supply their war in the South. America couldn't send in the Marines without sparking an international incident. They needed a loophole. They needed a way to fight a war without looking like they were fighting a war. This necessity gave birth to a new kind of American warfare, one that relied on proxies, deniability, and the Central Intelligence Agency. It wasn't about the brute force of D-Day. It was about the subtle manipulation of assets. It was about finding a third way. And as we dive into the American perspective, we will see how this strategic detachment, this view of the war from 30,000 feet, clashed and meshed with the ground-level reality of their Thai allies. The Americans brought the money and the machines, but they also brought a worldview that was distinctly Stripes. When the Americans looked at the map of Southeast Asia, they didn't see a collection of ancient kingdoms or spiritual homelands. They saw a chessboard. And in the American mindset, a chessboard is a problem to be solved. The American culture of the mid-20th century was defined by a supreme, almost industrial confidence. They had defeated fascism, they had rebuilt Europe, and they were on their way to the moon. There was a pervasive belief that there was no obstacle, geographical or political, that could not be overcome with enough funding, enough technology, and enough can-do spirit. In Laos, this American pragmatism faced a unique challenge. How do you fight a war in a country where you aren't allowed to have an army? The American solution was a masterclass in improvisation and corporate efficiency. They didn't send the Pentagon, they sent the CIA. And the CIA didn't run it like a military campaign, they ran it like a business. This was the American way distilled to its essence. It was decentralized, fast, and incredibly aggressive. While the U.S. Army in Vietnam was bogged down by bureaucracy and body counts, the CIA operatives in Laos, often just a handful of men in their 20s and 30s, were given backpacks full of cash and the authority to build armies. They treated the war as a logistical puzzle. They built Lima sites, secret airstrips carved out of mountaintops, creating a network of lily pads that allowed them to project power anywhere, anytime. The American approach was heavily reliant on technology as the ultimate equalizer. If the jungle was too thick, they would drop sensors. If the enemy was too numerous, they would call in fast movers, jet fighters to obliterate the grid square. It was a sterile, almost mathematical approach to violence. For the American strategists, the chaos of the jungle could be tamed by the precision of the machine. It was efficiency applied to destruction. To see this American mindset in action, you have to look at the men they called the Ravens. These were the forward air controllers, the cowboys of the secret war. Imagine a young man named Jerry. He's a pilot from the Midwest, raised on hot rods and baseball. He flies a tiny, flimsy Cessna 1G bird dog. It's basically a lawnmower with wings. He flies it low, dangerously low, just above the tree line in northern Laos. His job is to find the enemy and mark them with white phosphorus rockets so the massive fighter jets can see where to drop their bombs. Jerry isn't wearing a uniform. He's wearing jeans, sunglasses, and a gold chain. He carries an unauthorized Magnum revolver in a shoulder holster. He is utterly alone in the sky, unconnected to the massive military machine next door in Vietnam. He feels a sense of rugged individualism that is deeply American. He is the Lone Ranger. When he spots a truck convoy on the Ho Chi Minh Trail, he banks hard, fires his marking rocket, and radios the jets. Moments later, the earth erupts. Jerry watches the destruction with a detached awe. He is playing a high-stakes video game before video games existed. He believes he's saving democracy, one airstrike at a time. Or picture a CIA paramilitary officer. Let's call him Bill. Bill is stationed at a remote outpost with the Hmong. He is the ultimate problem solver. The Hmong need food. Bill radios for a rice drop. They need weapons. Bill gets them carbines. He is the conduit for the immense wealth of the United States. He walks with a swagger, a confidence that comes from having the world's superpower on speed dial. But unlike his Thai counterparts who see the spirits in the trees, Bill sees logistics. He sees supply lines. He embodies the American belief that if you throw enough resources at a problem, the problem will disappear. But what happens when the Thai save-face culture collides with the American get-it-done attitude? You get friction, and sometimes you get disaster. The secret war was a breeding ground for cultural misunderstandings. The Americans, operating with their direct, transactional communication style, often struggled to understand their Thai and Lao allies. To a CIA case officer, a plan was a plan. If you agreed to take a hill, you took the hill. But to the Thai mercenaries and Hmong fighters, the context mattered. If the omens were bad, or if the leadership structure was disrespected, the plan might be abandoned. The Americans would often get frustrated, labeling their allies as lazy or unreliable. They didn't understand the concept of Kreng Jai. A Thai commander might say yes to a dangerous mission, not because he intends to do it, but because he doesn't want to embarrass the American officer by saying no to his face. The American hears yes and expects results. The Thai hears a request that is impossible, agrees to maintain harmony, and then finds a way to avoid the action later. This clash was most evident in the hierarchy. In Thailand, age and rank are everything. You do not question a puyai. But the CIA was a meritocracy of the young. You had 26-year-old American case officers barking orders at 50-year-old Thai colonels. To the Thais, this was a profound insult, a disruption of the cosmic order. They swallowed their pride because the Americans held the purse strings, but the resentment simmered. The Americans saw themselves as partners, but the Thais often felt like hired help in their own backyard. The Americans were fighting a war of statistics and territory. The Thais were navigating a complex web of social obligations and survival. And yet, despite the friction, despite the cultural chasms, the machine worked. For nearly a decade, this strange alliance held the line. Why? Because in a twisted way, the strengths of Siam and the strengths of Stripes covered each other's weaknesses. The Americans brought the thunder. They brought the logistics, the air power, the medical evacuations, and the endless funding that a poor nation like Thailand could never dream of. They provided the shield. The Thais brought the water. They brought the cultural fluidity, the ability to blend in, the understanding of the local terrain, and the linguistic bridge to the Lao and Hmong people. They provided the human element that the Americans, with all their technology, could never replicate. The Thai pilots flying for Air America were often more effective than their U.S. counterparts because they understood the flow of the land. They didn't fight against the jungle, they flew with it. There was a middle path found in the brotherhood of the pilots and the ground teams. When the bullets were flying, the cultural differences evaporated. A Thai mercenary didn't care that the forward air controller was a brash American cowboy. He just cared that the airstrike arrived on time. An American case officer learned to respect the quiet, superstitious wisdom of his Thai counterpart when it saved them from an ambush. They found a harmony not in ideology, but in the shared reality of survival. They learned that the American hard power was useless without the Thai soft power, and vice versa. It was a tragic synergy, effective but born of necessity and blood. As the dust settled in the mid-1970s, the Americans packed up their sensors and their satellites and went home. The secret war ended, but the scars remained. For Thailand, the gamble paid off partially. The dominoes did not fall all the way to Bangkok. The kingdom remained independent, modernized by American infrastructure and hardened by the conflict. But for Laos, the legacy is heavier. It remains the most heavily bombed country in history per capita. A land where the American solution of air power left millions of unexploded bomblets still waiting in the soil today. The story of the secret war is a testament to what happens when two vastly different cultures join forces in the shadows. It shows us the incredible power of cooperation, but also the dangerous blindness of fighting a war from a distance. It forces us to ask, can money and technology ever truly bridge the gap of cultural understanding? Or do they just paper over the cracks until the mission is over? I want to hear from you. Do you think Thailand's decision to host the secret war was a necessary act of survival or a dangerous compromise of their neutrality? How do you view the American approach of checkbook warfare? Let us know in the comments below. We read every single one because your perspective helps us bridge the gap. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the shadows of history, please like this episode and subscribe to Siam and Stripes. Join us next time as we continue to unravel the fascinating threads that weave our two worlds together. Until then, Sawadee Krop and take care.